I don't know.
You'll be on a river somewhere.
Yeah, but the whole day? I don't know.
I just texted Mark to ask if he was on his way. Texted Mark to ask if he was on his way. I want this down. I maybe heard on Friday.
Here he comes.
It doesn't like you.
Evidently. Everyone's ganging up on me tonight.
I don't know why it doesn't like you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 7 o'clock. We'll get started on our special meeting of December the 11th. With that, I'd like to start our meeting with that. We will our meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the territory of the Ottawa and Chippewa peoples, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We thank you for your strength and resilience in protecting this land and inspiring us to uphold our responsibility to do the same. Again, as I try to remind ourselves at every meeting, that we interact with each other in a matter of respect, dignity, patience, and charity. We only have one item for our agenda tonight, which deals with the continuing process of selecting a city manager. We'll get to that in a few moments. With that, Ms. Colbert, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. With that, roll call, please.
Commissioner Wilson,
I'm here.
Commissioner Colbert,
Here.
Commissioner Trodwell,
Hello.
Commissioner Stanley,
Here.
Commissioner Werner,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Shamrock,
Here.
Mayor Lewis.
Here. Okay, announcements from the interim city manager. He's not here tonight. Okay, and which he's been excused. Announcements from the deputy city clerk.
I just have 2 meetings to report that are scheduled this week. Traverse City Light and Power will meet Tuesday, September 12th at 5:15 here in the chambers, and the Downtown Development Authority will meet this Friday, September 15th at 8:30 a.m. in the chambers also. And I'd just like to remind you guys to speak into the microphones so those hearing at home can hear us clearly. Thank you.
Good, thank you. With that, for consideration of selecting a new city manager, the next steps. Okay, as we all know, that last Thursday we went through an interview process with 5 candidates. We have been informed today that one candidate from that process, Mr. Christian Worth, has decided to withdraw his application or his consideration. So that leaves us down to 4. From the feedback that was received from the forms that were submitted to our advisor and consultant back in the corner. I like the way she stays back there hidden really well. You should try that one. I can't see if you're over there. We have that the folks that arose to the top from this particular meeting from at this point, the 2 were Chris Forsythe and Benjamin Meritet. There was a third that was fairly close to the top. One vote one way or the other could have gotten her there, was Liz Vogel. So with that, we need to decide how we wish to proceed. I took the liberty of putting my thoughts down on paper today, because if I don't, then if I get up here, I feel like I'm rambling, which I can do anyway with it on paper. But just kind of look at the options that we have before us, how we wish to proceed. And these are by no means how we should proceed. It's just a way to start. Hopefully, you think about how we should do this. The way I looked at it, we have 2 broad choices. One is we can open this up for a second interview with the top 2 or 3, whichever we decide, with a specific assignment given to them to be presented at the next interview. I said something on Thursday evening. It could be Wednesday evening. It could be Thursday morning. I just put a date down. I just put a time down. I would hope that we would like to get it done this week, so at least everybody knows which path we are heading. But that's still up to the decision of all of us. If there is a second interview, I know Ms. L has mentioned that she doesn't really see the need for one, maybe not, but it's still our choice. But if it's these 3 individuals, they are pretty local. With all due respect, we probably wouldn't need your services, although you're more than welcome to join us if you want. But you can save yourself the journey if you would like, or you can watch us on TV if you want, so that's fine too. Otherwise, the other one is to select between the 2 or the 3 candidates we want to move with. One, of course, we've done this in the past with others when we're making appointments, is doing, or other decisions, doing the ranked choice balloting,
Ranked choice
vote.
vote.
Ranked choice vote. I did ask Sarah to be prepared for that, if that's how we wanted to choose to do that, but that's not wanting to do it. We can also do a straw poll on the candidates, followed by a motion, all that stuff, to see who comes out on the top. And otherwise, you just start making a motion second, and if there isn't 4 in favor, we just go to the next one. So you just go until one is selected, because it'll take 4 affirmative votes. It's not complicated. It's just how we want it to move forward. I did give you, and it's not that I'm brilliant, just I saw this done in a previous interview process up in Elk Rapids, where the 2 final candidates were brought back, and they were given an assignment homework to come up with a task and report back to the city commission as if they were making a report. How are they going to do this? And, what I gave you was an outline of what could be happening if they were to take the office, and what's looking forward for 6 months, some of the topics and issues that are out there, and then come back and say, what's your first 6 months going to look like? They explain it, and that's it. Then that's just one idea. But there's another way, but give them a homework to bring back to you, and that's all that's brought up. I know I didn't listen in on it, but I thought it was pretty ingenious. I thought, man, that's a pretty good idea, and it came from another consultant, so I looked at it. So it's wide open. It's our call to make. So
I agree that the only kind of second interview I would want to entertain would be one that is not just more answering of questions, but actual.
An actual scenario.
An actual.
How are you going to deal with it? You're making a report to the commission, so.
But I'm not opposed to making a motion and seeing if we have votes tonight.
That's our call, so.
This is more a question for Sarah. In the practicalities of a ranked choice option, would it be possible, since if it looks like we have 3 candidates, us to vote and then have some system that gives, say, 2 points to our first choice, 1 point to our second choice, and 0 points to the third choice out of those 3 candidates?
Within the software program, I don't have that capabilities of doing that. So.
Well, then we would have to do that by piece of paper.
Yeah.
And we just add them all up.
I was just going to say, I'm given, and though we ended up with a good process, or a good selection, given how the last time we did that, I'm not real keen on it. Also, I think there's a difference between hiring a consultant or ranking some choices that we have for objectives versus hiring a city manager in public. I really think we should probably have a more deliberative process. And what I was just going to share was and Tim and I were just talking about this before the meeting, when Brandy Ekron was hired to be the director of Traverse City Light and Power, a similar process to this, we started by going around and saying everybody's like first and second choices. And from there was some consensus, and we were able to have a little bit of a discussion then based on the candidates that we had self-selected, beyond just matrix and paperwork of our own leanings, and then we're able to have that conversation. So I'd be open to that too, rather than simply just saying, like, here's our top 3, I'm going to make a motion right now for so-and-so, and then we're going to vote it up or down. There was a little bit of deliberation beforehand of who we even wanted to consider, so.
Well, I didn't mean it to say the way that we would
I
just
know,
do it. We would have a discussion, I would hope,
Yeah.
so, but anyway, so we take it from there.
Yeah,
So,
and my question wasn't that would be the first step, but
yeah,
if after some discussion, there'd be
Yeah,
a process that didn't
how
give
you do that.
only weight to our first choice, but
Okay. So that, you've heard from at least two folks that thought maybe we go down the line and see who's your first, second picks, however you want to do that. And it's almost like doing a straw vote, so in many ways.
I did watch all the interviews. I apologize for not being here. I was glad I did not get the survey back to Ms. Sell, but my top 3 ended up in anyways, so I'm fine with stating, who we want and taking a vote.
Okay. I mean, do you want to name who you want to rank
Just
them?
top 1, 2, 3. I go Chris, Benjamin, and
Benjamin, number 1,
number 2.
number 2.
Yeah,
Who was
Chris,
number 1?
number 1.
Huh?
Chris, number 1.
And that was third. Okay. The one with, in my way, I'm doing it, the one with the most numbers is last, so there you go.
Are we rank voting? I'm
Yeah, okay.
confused. I would put Ben 1, Chris 2, Liz 3.
Sorry, can,
Elaborate.
yeah, how about elaboration? I
Well,
mean, that's,
Yeah, part of the
well,
discussion.
that's fine if
I'd
you
be
have
happy to
some reason
elaborate.
why you're,
Yeah. I actually wrote some things down.
okay, great.
Because I want people to know in town that we had selected 6 from 15 candidates. I think it was 15 that were presented to us out of 88 that applied. And I liked our 6 very much. We had 2 out of state, we had 2 in-state, we had 2 local, and that seemed good to me. We had 3 men, we had 3 women, that seemed good to me. As it turned out, one of the out-of-state people dropped, and now the second person who was from downstate also dropped. It was an exhausting day, I think, for everybody, and everybody stayed chipper and focused and made it all the way to the end of the meet and greet admirably. I think we all learned many things from lots of the candidates. It was fascinating. What was clear to me at the end of the day was that we had 5 candidates, all of whom are mid-career, and that was good. I was glad about that. But that anybody we chose was going to have to be a leap of faith. That there wasn't anybody in the pile who had the city manager experience at a comparable kind of city or a comparably sized city. And so anybody we chose I wanted to have confidence in that I felt that they had the drive to do the work and to make that next step up in their career path. I've spent many hours looking at everything, the video interviews that were online, all the references, the resumes, the letters. There are pages and pages of things, and also looking at the interviews again. I think that we have in our 2 local candidates an impressive set of skills, no question about that. But after much hand-wringing, I decided that Ben would be my top choice. And I decided that because his communication skills are so top-notch. I think his educational background is great. His reputation as a city clerk is outstanding. I like his kind of commitment, his spoken commitment to a 21st century approach to management, which is, I think, something that everybody's been hoping for. I think he understands the challenges we're facing because we're here, because he's here and has been aware of that. And the thing that really put him over the top for me was a very clearly stated desire to have an actionable strategic plan, and he even included the idea of a dashboard that would be available to the public where they could see the plan in action and where we were in terms of progress, and I thought that was great. So I know that he's an inside candidate. That's not always good. He grew up here. He was 19 when he started here, and I know what it's like for a teacher to come back and teach in the school where they grew up. You're always kind of seen as that kid. I think I didn't know Ben when he was 19, but I hoped that everybody could see him for the man that he is today. So, so for me, he was the one who came out on top, even though I think Chris is fabulous and has done wonderful things for the city and the county. Ben just edged him out a little bit for me.
Mitch, you ready?
Yes, I feel like we have a number of great candidates, especially these top 3, and I wish I could pick and choose attributes from all 3 of them, since they definitely have strengths and weaknesses. I guess I'd go a little different than the last 2 people, and I'd say Liz, Chris, and Ben in my 1, 2, 3. While Ben is exemplary in his communication skills and has done a fantastic job both directly and indirectly as the voice of Traverse City, both through his own statements and through coordinating. He created the communications director position that we currently have in the city clerk's department. But I am a little apprehensive for how he would handle things that are outside of his wheelhouse. He has, although he's gone above and beyond his duties in terms of additional certifications or training, I haven't seen how he would handle something like, say, a road reconstruction project that has to be managed through the streets department and the engineering and other aspects of the city. So if we were going to go back, I would very much be interested in Mayor Lewis's idea of essentially a practical exercise as opposed to just answering questions. Liz impressed me with what she has done at different levels of government and bringing something of an outside perspective while still understanding how those levels of government interact with each other. Meskwaki County is comparable in size to Traverse City in population, though in budget, in acreage, it definitely is not. And county and city have differing responsibilities. Chris has done a remarkable job making things happen behind the scenes in my own observations of county business, but he, I don't know how intentionally it is, hasn't taken on that much of a public-facing role in many of those duties. But based on how he's done things for the county, I think he could admirably complete the vast majority of the day-to-day administrative duties for the city as well.
Okay. So if I heard you correct, it was your top choice was Ms. Vogel, then Mr. Forsythe, and then Mr. Meritet.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll speak for myself, but I think this is probably true of my colleagues here on the dais, is that on Thursday I was going into this with a completely open mind without any preconceived notions about who was going to come out on top at the end of the day. I think that's really important to emphasize that our consultant, Ms. Sell, did a fantastic job of running a search, bringing us the top candidates, helping us sort through that and winnowing it down to our group of 6. As Commissioner Colbert pointed out, you know, we had a really great core group we had intended to invite. We had the one that dropped out that was out of state. We've had the second one drop out today. I think that among the 3 that rose to the top, any of them would do a phenomenal job in this role. Like Commissioner Colbert, I was very impressed by Benjamin's focus on an actionable strategic plan and a community-facing dashboard. And I think the fact that he created the communications position cannot be underestimated. We know that the city has long had a challenge with telling our own story and connecting with and communicating with our constituents, with our citizens. And that's still in the early stages, and yes, we have more work to do. Subscribe to the Bay Brief, please, everyone listening, watching, subscribe to the Bay Brief. And I also want, as I was going through and making this decision, I was really grappling with this among those 3, amongst Benjamin, Chris, and Liz. But in addition to that actionable strategic plan, I think the staff feedback that we saw and heard was also an important factor for me. And I want to be very clear, I think that all 3 candidates that we have in this group are very strong, and I would be very satisfied to work alongside any of them. But my rank would be Benjamin, number 1, Chris, number 2, and Liz, number 3.
Thank you.
I had the, I'll say, personal advantage of having a captured audience when I left Thursday night from the public open house, because my wife picked me up and we had to drive 40 minutes and she was driving. So she asked me how it went, and I described all 5 candidates and what I was thinking of each, and how I was having a difficult time deciding whether Benjamin Marantet or Chris Forsyth was my top pick. And so she asked some really excellent questions and made me respond to the questions and reply, and in that, trying to put it into words, realize that Benjamin is my top choice. And that realization came because they're very different individuals, and so I liked each for very different reasons. But she asked, well, what's the most important thing about the city manager to me, like in my mind? And I said, to bring on and coach the very best department heads. In putting that into words, then it was an obvious, again, connecting the dots in my own mind and then out loud to my wife to say that Benjamin Marantet is the top choice because that's his skill set. Chris Forsyth has tremendous skills and technically knows a lot about a lot of things, but Ben's approach and people skills are essentially off the charts, and that's coming from a person who doesn't really have people skills as an engineer. So it's easy for me to be impressed with that. But and so that's my first choice, and that's why too. And one of the questions I asked in our whatever we called it, the main interview part, was about building a culture in the community, because this new city manager will have the opportunity to hire at least 5 new department heads. And so that's creating a new culture, and that's both recruiting, encouraging, coaching, you know, all those words that go with it for the coming years. And so that's my top choice, and my second is Mr. Forsyth.
Amy.
Sure. Well, I'll make Tim feel a little better, I think, because in addition to everything that my colleagues up here have talked about, and I'll touch on some of those too, not to just make assumptions, but the 2 things that I found very interesting about this process that I was very glad we did were we called it the one-on-ones or speed dating, where we, outside of the chambers, each had about 10 minutes with each candidate. And that's meant for an informal discussion. So what I like to do in those, we had done that when we hired Brandy Ekren, was say, you know, I was born and raised here, and I've been on the commission for this long. What questions do you have of me? And so in that answer I got, I think that helped to sort a few things. I shouldn't say sort a few things out. It gave a different perspective that enforced the best qualities about everybody that I was leaning towards already in different ways. But then the other key part, I think, was the public meet and greet at the end. And what I was really looking for there was who's engaging the public, right? Because that's what a city manager is going to be doing. They're engaging the public, whether it be consultants, people from different organizations that we work with, or ourselves, or public meetings. Who is engaging with the public? Who's extricating themselves from longer conversations to make sure they're meeting the room? Who's not doing that? Who's going to the people they know or that they've talked to already that day? And so that actually opened my eyes on a few things as well. So I think going out on Thursday, and this is going to be a journey, so bear with me. I think going out on Thursday.
It's been a journey.
I think I was Liz, Benjamin, and Chris. Then I've thought about it a little bit more over the weekend, and we were doing, and I don't know if the public's fully aware of this, while we were doing this and here, doing our questions, there was actually a panel of department heads interviewing the candidates as well. So they were rotating between us. So over the weekend, we were given their feedback as well as some of the feedback from the public event for those who've chose to fill it out. And the one thing that really surprised me in a pleasant way, just because I thought maybe there'd be more reactions to any given candidate, not a particular one, was that Benjamin Marantet was the only one that staff didn't say he ranked exceeds or in expectations on every single thing. And for that to come from internal, I almost expected there to be a little bit between him as well as Chris Forsyth, a little bit more friction, because everybody has their bad day at the office. Everybody has the people they get along with and don't get along with. I think we have a really good team in this whole building here with city and county, but you know, everybody's got lanes and sometimes can feel like people cross or things like that. And so that really actually spoke to me quite a bit this weekend while I was deliberating about where I was ranking people. So that's part of my ranking. The other part, and it's been touched on several times here, but I can't stress it enough, regardless of whether we do anything drastic or we just keep moving forward as a 21st century organization, this city has always been a city of 15,000 people with a scrutiny of 150,000 minimally. If you watch any of our local news, we know it's like a 5-county or more coverage area, so it can be even more than that. And I think, Tim and a couple people touched on this, that communication is going to be key. And we need the public to understand things from somebody who's going to speak plainly and be able to use visuals and other things to demonstrate ideas. And so all of that kind of put together as I was contemplating even this morning, but it was the same as last night, so I thought that was a good thing. I think that I would then put Benjamin Marentet as my first one. And it's tough between 2 and 3 because I think Liz Vogel had a lot of great communication qualities and was very open and had some newer ideas. Chris, though, is a consummate administrator. So it was back and forth between the two of them, but I think the communication part edged Liz to 2 and Chris to 3. But at the same time, I would say, and join with everybody else, we had great people to interview top to bottom, and in the perfect world, we could figure out where to fit the other 2 people that don't get the job into our organization somehow, because
Oh, I've
the
already got a
organization.
plan in my head.
I'm not surprised, Linda.
I want all 3, and I know where I want them.
But I think they'd all be very strong people in the city that would help the city. But just when I look at the city manager's role, the communication aspect, the ways I've seen certain ideas and things brought before us not be as strong when they come to us, or maybe fall apart a little in the public first glance, the stronger the communication, the better, I think, for a city manager. And I think Benjamin rose to the top for that reason.
Who's your number 2?
My Liz, for the moment. 2 and 3 might change. I feel like I'm going to date myself. For anybody who might have gone through the MySpace years, I feel like it's the changing top 5.
Okay. All right. I again wanted to thank Ms. Sell for all the work you did in bringing us 6 great candidates. It was, I'm like a lot of folks here, I was walking in, and I know one of them you asked, I was asked about, and we added the individual to the list, and I'm glad we did. Because a lot of folks that I can see on a piece of paper, and then when you get here and you start intermingling with them, it's a different feel, and that's what I got when I did that. Especially when I love the questions that we asked and the way we asked them, because I think it opened it up to, to more hypotheticals than it did. You're concerned, Linda, about, all these folks are in middle management and, got to do. Let me share with you a story in 1991. They hired some yokel out of
Kentucky?
Western Kentucky and brought him up here, who
Casey?
had never been in a city with all the magnitudes and all the integral parts that it had here. And I can tell you right off the bat, when I got here within 30 days, I'm going, what the heck have I done? Because I was scared to death. I was scared to no end. But in the end, I was in a great position that I had I was blessed that there was great staff sitting here already. I didn't have to worry about going to find it, and whoever the next person that we select is going to help build that culture, build that staff. Hopefully, we'll be keeping in mind that the staff is going to hopefully will outlast that person. Mm-hmm. So I'm not worried about any one of these individuals. Any 5 of them could have walked in here. Yeah, they will struggle. It's a new community, and that's why I said the question, what's your first 6 months are going to be like? We're not kidding each other up here. We know it's going to be a tough road after November. There are some topics out there, some subjects that are going to be tough subjects that are going to have to be addressed. Manager doesn't deal with them all, but they got to be ready, because this body is up here who's going to be dealing that. I've watched Mr. Marentet from the time he was 19 years old, starting in the Treasurer's Department, doing collection, being at the front desk and working his way through a system, taking advantage of every opportunity he could to grow through education, through whatever means he had to do. He liked to talk about the rec authority. I can tell you the person who gave him that job when he left. here as assistant city manager. I did. I said, here, you get to practice, have fun. And he did a great job on it, and whatever. I wrestled too because I liked Liz, Ms. Vogel, and I would like to see a female be here in some way or fashion to see what would happen. But we know we've got tough things coming on, and I'd like to hopefully someday, maybe, who knows, she's going to land somewhere that's going to be just dynamic. And she's going to be a future female leader in municipal government or local government somewhere in this state. So I'm glad I got to meet her, before it was too late. I feel the same way about Chris. I think he's going to be a leader either in somewhere in local government. I think he's found his passion, his mark, and that leads a long way, and I think he'll continue to be a strong advocate. And if I could, I would put both. Benjamin's going to be my number one. If I could, I would give one of them a 2.5 and the other one a 2.5. Simply because I think they're that equal in quality. So I'm just glad we went through the process. So I mean, we've made our call, but anyway, as I was keeping up with the numbers at this point, in this case, the one with the least amount of numbers wins, and that is Christopher. When you do the math across, has got 10. Benjamin had 10, Chris Forsythe had 15, and Liz had 17. So obviously, by these number status, it feels like this commission is under the impression that Mr. Meritet is the person we would like to give further consideration at this point. So
I'd love to make the motion.
Unless we want to have more discussion, so.
I'm happy to make a motion.
We'd like you to make the motion that's in there, please, and then I got to get my.
I'd like to move that Benjamin Marentet be selected as the finalist for the position of city manager and a conditional offer of employment be extended. And further, that upon the acceptance of the offer of employment and successful background check, the city attorney and/or mayor and mayor pro tem to negotiate a proposed employment agreement with Benjamin Marentet, with such agreement to be brought back to the city commission for authorization.
Support.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a support. Any other discussion?
What's the and/or? How's that work with commas?
One of us is going to do it. Either both of us are going to be involved or just one of us.
Okay, because it's worded city attorney and/or mayor and mayor pro tem.
It should have been,
That's why I'm asking.
And mayor and/or pro tem.
yeah, man.
Well, I just feel like one of the elected officials
Yeah.
it shouldn't just be put on our city attorney
No,
to
no,
negotiate.
we agree with that.
Okay,
We
thank
talked
you.
about doing that. So it could be myself or it could be both of us, whichever one you want.
We got
I
it.
fixed
We
it.
got it.
Thank you.
We
There you
fixed it. So,
Um,
okay.
Also,
Well, clearly the city clerk staff hires the best that can do it in real time.
So, okay. I'm going to open this for public comments because we have public here. Anybody got something they wish to share or not share? Good. All right. With that, we have a motion and we have support. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion is unanimous. We don't need
Did
a
you
roll
want to
call,
say
do we?
something?
No,
we
I just
don't.
thought there'd be more discussion, but I guess we all did very lengthy
We did.
description. So Richard just got to the heart of it quicker, I guess. Just
See, now
to
for me.
clarify.
And I still didn't lose my accent after this long, so there you go.
Just to clarify, because of just thinking back to when we did the negotiations with Brandy, because we put the price range out there, that's what the contract negotiations and everything will be operating within, so there
Yeah.
won't be a surprise.
Yeah, we know. So we'll
Well, I'm
see
just-
what we bring back.
So,
Okay. And of course, a lot of things that's already there, he doesn't lose how much vacation time he earns, whatever, and continue. I think the main number is going to be is the salary number, so everything else is already there for the most part. Okay.
the
And
worst
probably
thing
a car
is we now
allowance.
have another major hire, city clerk.
We don't wink at anything here. That's not our call to make it.
that's not our call. We don't have that decision.
No, oh,
Yeah.
oh, it's the next city manager.
We have to
Yes.
approve it, but we don't do
With
the
your-
hiring.
With
Okay.
your approval, correct.
That's true.
And I think we have competent staff that can serve in an acting city clerk capacity.
Well, that's always up for debate, too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I want to thank all the candidates.
I agree
and
with that.
for Amy Sell's
Okay.
Agency.
We'll make
And
sure-
all of us. It was not easy. It was really
It
difficult.
was a fun, I thought it was a fun day, so, when it all got said and done, so.
Very interesting.
Especially when I got to harass Mr. Warner later in the afternoon. It's always an enjoyment for me. So, with-
Am I right? I think Benjamin was also the number one choice of the public at the meet and greet. I
It
think
might
he
have
had the
been.
most.
Okay.
And the,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
staff.
okay,
And
I
the
did
staff.
receive
All right.
multiple comments from members of the public
okay.
Yeah.
that were there or had read in the paper.
Yeah.
And supported
Okay.
Ben.
Thank you very much. I'll put this with, you can put that with the notes, because Buddy needs to know. Okay, with that, we open this up for public comment.
Fine.
Going once, going twice. And you as a student got to come back again for another
For a
hour and a half
longer
at a
meeting.
later date.
Come, we'll sign it, we'll sign it.
Great meeting.
You got to
We'll
come
sign
back
it
for an hour and a
halfway.
half
Don't
more
make
later
trouble,
on.
Richard.
No, they got to stay for 2.5 hours.
They just watched one of the most important processes
With
in
that, we are
government.
adjourned.
We'll sign it.
Yes, we will. Don't worry, he's just harassing it.
I was teasing. I told her she was going to get lucky
I know,
tonight.
I-